I'm doing great, guys. You?
Good, having some fun, and we started the show off with the struggles that Aaron Judge has had, and I know you've been on the show every Thursday, and this has been a major topic of conversation, but it's so stark compared to before the All-Star break, so people are beginning to wonder, did the home run derby take something out of him? Did it change his swing? Did it disrupt things? Do you think that that was a part of it?
I mean, I think it's a very small part of it. You know, there's multiple factors. When you go through a funk like this that Aaron's in, you know, there's multiple factors, and I think one of them is he's probably a little tired. You know, he won't admit it because, you know, players are never going to admit during a season that they're tired. But, listen, you go through ups and downs physically during a season, and you notice that he's getting the night off tonight. That's not by accident. He's not getting a night off because he feels great and, you know, he's locked in and he's got energy. He's getting a night off because he's probably a little beat up, a little tired, and, you know, hopefully this will help him out.
If you're the Yankees right now, what are you more concerned by, the Aaron Judge struggles or the 5-game win streak of the Orioles behind them?
I don't worry about the Orioles if I'm the Yankees. The Orioles I feel like they're going to be one of those teams like we were with the Yankees last year, just like really close the whole second half and just never really going to be able to get over the hump. The Orioles pitching is going to keep them back, I believe. And, you know, you have 3 teams in that division that are better than the O's right now. So I don't worry if I'm a Yankee about the Orioles. I worry a little bit about, hey, I went and got Sonny Gray. I got to win the division. You know,
Right.
I didn't go out and get Sonny Gray and make the White Sox deal to be in the wild card and play one game maybe. So, you know, for me, the Yankees really have a chance to make a move here the second half of the season for that division crown, which is kind of the goal here. You know, they made that deal for Sonny Gray for bigger things.
Now, it's an interesting comparison with you to Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray comes over here. He's the piece that now makes the Yankees, in some people's minds, the favorites to win the division. Similar to when you signed on with the Yankees in 2009, that was the final piece for a championship, and that's exactly what ended up happening. So from your perspective, what's going on in Sonny's mind right now? Is he shutting that out, embracing it? What kind of factor is that, knowing that you are looked upon as maybe the final piece to the puzzle?
Well, there's probably tons of pressure on Sonny Gray right now, and I don't personally know Sonny. He hasn't pitched in a lot of postseason games. I know his rookie year he pitched really well for the A's. So, you know, based on that, you know, outing or that postseason run, he's been through it and he's risen to the occasion. I think pitchers have it a little bit easier in the fact where they're in control. You know, when you're on the mound, you know, you have control as a pitcher of your destiny, and you know you can kind of make adjustments on the mound and as you go. If you're a position player and get off to a tough 2 weeks when you get traded like Jay Bruce did last year, all of a sudden you're getting booed right away. It's just a tougher. It's tougher to try to put a team on your back as a position player because the harder you try, the worse you're going to be. As a pitcher, you can go out there, you're in control, you go out there, do a good job, and all of a sudden the fans love you. Tonight's a big night for Sonny Gray. I mean, he's facing arguably one of the best pitchers in baseball in Corey Kluber, a team that went to the World Series last year in the Indians. This is a great debut for him to be on the road because he doesn't have the home fans kind of on top of him all night.
Do you, I mean, like you just said, I know you don't know him personally, but we've been talking about Sonny's statistics over the week, and, you know, there's upside and downside to it. Some of them are a little bit misleading in terms of how good he's been at times, but over the last couple of years, of course, his win-loss, not great, ERA, not great. I know the last 6 games he's been really good, but just as a fan, do you have a general expectation? Because listen, I know the least here, certainly in talking to you, but I don't think it's like this is an absolute home run. I think this is a question mark move. I think they took a gamble here, a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you there, Peter. I mean, listen, Sonny Gray, when he's healthy, is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Health has been a big concern for him. Last year was a disaster, not because he forgot how to pitch, but I think he was a little beat up last year. Didn't have the velocity, didn't have the crispness of his pitches, and he got his hat handed to him. This year, to start the season, he wasn't great, but you look at what he's done his last 5 starts, as you said, and he's been an ace. So the Yankees are hoping that they got the ace Sonny Gray, not the beat up, kind of number 2 or 3 starter that he might have been last year, because that's a guy that you can put up against a Chris Sale or a Corey Kluber and feel good about yourself when Sonny Gray's on the mound.
Now, there are a couple of concerns here, Mark, and that is their record in one-run games and their ability to hit with runners in scoring position. Cost them the game yesterday. It's cost them a couple of the games down the stretch here. Is that just one of those things, or would that concern you going into the playoffs if this trend continues of leaving runners on base and not winning the close games?
That would absolutely concern me. It really would, because when you're in the playoffs, you are facing good teams with good pitching. You're not going to score 10 runs a game. You're going to have to get runners over, get runners in, get the big hit. You look at the type of guys you're going to be facing. They're just not going to be giving up home runs left and right. I don't care how good of a lineup you have. And, I think the Yankees have switched issues now the second half of the season. The first half of the season, it was who's going to pitch for us. The second half of the season, it's going to be who's going to score the runs, who's going to drive in the runs. And you look at the lineup tonight without Aaron Judge, without Matt Holliday, without Starlin Castro. You have some holes in that lineup right now, and you're going to need those type of guys to really step up in the playoffs, because there are going to be a lot of one-run games.
All right, let's switch gears over to the Mets. Rosario finally gets called up, one of the biggest prospects in baseball. A couple of decent games, had a triple, RBI, run scored last night, had a hit in his first game, although a couple of fielding blunders. I'm not sure how much you saw of him, but just give me your thoughts on the Mets finally getting a chance to call him up.
Yeah, I've seen highlights of him, and I think he's a dynamic player. He's one of those game-changing type players. Reminds you a little bit of Jose Reyes when he first came up. I know he doesn't play the outfield, but an Ichiro Suzuki guy that can just do so many things with the bat on the bases. You blink and he's on third base after an infield hit. He's one of those kind of guys that can do a lot of things, and the Mets have to be really excited. I know Keith Law at ESPN has him as the number 1 prospect in baseball right now, and that means a lot. There's a lot of really good talent in minor league baseball right now, and for him to be number 1 is pretty impressive.
All right, personal question. My Alexa and I are going to Wrigley for the first time this weekend. She's a huge Nats fan, and I'm taking her out there for the first time. Like you, I'm guessing, Mark, I grew up going to Memorial Stadium and then Camden Yards.
Yep.
How cool, when you first got to experience Wrigley, how cool is it? Do you have any recommendations?
Wrigley is one of those places that you need to get there when the gates open. You have to walk around.
That's what I was told.
Yes, you have to walk around the entire stadium. Well, first of all, get near Wrigley 4 hours before the game, because you want to walk around Wrigleyville and just experience it. Hopefully the weather will be nice for you, because that's one of those places that every baseball fan needs to go, and not just watch a game, but experience every inch of Wrigley. And I'm not saying this because I was a Yankee for 8 years. Boston doesn't have what Wrigley has from a fan and charm experience. I don't know what it is about Wrigley. I don't know if it's the outfield, the seats above the Wrigley seats above the buildings out there in the outfield. I don't know if it's all the people that are just spilling out all day long. Summers in Chicago. I don't know what it is, but Wrigley is that special place that every fan needs to go.
Well, yeah, the outside of Fenway, though, there are bars. It's not as charming. Like, inside's charming. It's not that charming next to Fenway.
Outside of Fenway, you got to be careful. I think that's the difference. It's like rough outside of Fenway. Those bars, I mean, guys are getting hammered and trying to start fights.
Well, Right.
Of Wrigley, I feel like guys are just having fun.
Well, see, that's
having a little more good time.
That to me is the difference. I didn't get a chance to go to Wrigley for the first time until 2015 during the playoffs with the Mets. I actually earlier that season did a Ranger Blackhawk game, and I made a point. It was in March. I just had to go check it out. I walked around. There was nobody there. It was great. But going to the game, it was Game 3 of the divisional round of the league championship series. The Mets beat them. They're down 3-0. Now, if I'm at Fenway, I'm walking out of that building. People are kicking over garbage cans. They're mad. They're screaming. They're chanting of negative things about the opponent. They're spilling out to the street, and they're mad. Their team's down 3-0. I'm walking out of Wrigley Field, Mark, and it was like people were like, oh, we lost, but "Hey, we got to see our team play. It's a beautiful ballpark." Like, they were pleasant. And I'm walking out of there, and they know I'm a Met fan, and they're talking about the game. I felt safe. I didn't feel... And I wonder, Mark, whether that might have been the reason why it took so long for them to win, where maybe the fans didn't necessarily put a ton of pressure on the team to win because they were just content having a team.
They love their Cubbies.
They love their Cubbies, and we win, great. We lose, we'll get over it. There's always next year. As a player, was that maybe in an environment that would make it conducive not to feel the pressure to win?
Don, that's a very interesting point, and I never really even thought about it. But I think as a player, it's not as big of a deal. As a front office or owner of a team, absolutely. If I know that my fans are going to keep showing up no matter what, if I know that, that there won't be riots in the streets and the newspaper and media outlets won't just be crushing me every day if we don't win, then you know what? Maybe I won't go all in when we have a good team. Maybe I won't make that big acquisition or make that big trade. So, you're absolutely right. There's not as much of a sense of urgency in Chicago. And we're splitting hairs here, right? Two great cities for baseball, but just you're exactly right. Different fan bases.
For the record, Steve Bartman might see the friendly nature of the Cubs fan base a little differently than you guys. But I hear you.
Right. And he ends up getting a ring for it.
He did. You know what? You're right.
You know what?
In the end, it still worked out.
And if it happened at Fenway, there's a fighting chance he doesn't make it to 2017.
Here's a question. Did Buckner get a ring when they won in 04?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's a great question.
I know. He did not.
Probably not.
But under the same premise, he deserved one. If it was just thank you for surviving all the heat that you took.
When I first heard that Barton got a ring, I thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I heard the guy's response to it. Like, it was heartwarming.
So
this
humble.
guy's life was, I don't want to say ruined, but drastically altered by that one event. And the poor guy could not be himself for the last 15 years. I just thought it was really cool that he was able to, maybe put this whole thing behind him and move on with his life.
All right, we got a couple of text messages here from fans. Nick in Hasbrook Heights texts, if you could relive one moment in your baseball career, what would it be and why?
I would relive the entire post-09 World Series. Just from the time I caught the last out to about 2 weeks after the World Series, because it was all a blur. It was a complete blur. I was exhausted. It was my first year in New York. I'm getting lost, taking my kids to school because I don't know my hometown here. It was just a complete blur. I would like to redo that and really enjoy soaking in that World Series because it was my only one, and I think I would enjoy it more. I would enjoy the celebrations more now.
Jackie from Staten Island. Mark, would you rather be the best player on a team or be on the best team in the league?
Oh, definitely on the best team in the league.
What if you were just a role player? All right, you're the starting first baseman for the New York Yankees, and they're 40 games under 500, but you're an all-star. Or would you be an average player, like a 250 first baseman, light hitting, and be playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Oh, that's different.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be an all-star and then hope the team turns it around.
There you go.
That's kind of the way it is. No player goes out there and says, I want to be average.
Speaking of the Dodgers, man, I know it's baseball, and you never know what's going to happen, and sometimes the best team doesn't win. But what's their weakness? Now they add Darvish, but this team 43 games above 500. They're going to get Kershaw back for the playoffs. I mean, what's the weakness?
The only weakness is Kershaw's back. If Kershaw is healthy, this team is as close to a juggernaut as you'll find in baseball. If he's not, then you really, we break this down all the time. If Kershaw's out of the rotation, over 162, the Dodgers are still going to win 100-plus games. But in a short 7-game series, you put him up against the Nationals. You put him up against a hot Cubs team, maybe a hot Astros or Cleveland in the American League. They're not as unbeatable as they are with Kershaw in there. You know, Kershaw is the huge X factor. If he's healthy and he's Clayton Kershaw, they are big World Series favorites.
Mark in Melville, when players are traded or switch teams, how much do signs have to be changed?
They are not changed very much at all. Usually it's just the indicator, which the indicator is the first thing that is touched by the opposing or the third base coach that kind of makes the signs matter. Other than that, the signs all stay the same, but it's like, you know, if I touch my hat, nothing's on, but if I touch my chest first, then the next sign actually means something. Those are the things that are changed.
Did you see the I know you saw it, but your thoughts on the Austin Jackson catch?
Oh my goodness. That might be like a top 5 all time, you know, or at least the ones that I've seen live, you know, as a big leaguer. You know, I got to see Gary Matthews Jr., his catch in Texas. I was on the field. I was with the Rangers at the time. You got to see Mike Trout's, you know, a couple years ago when we were watching that on TV. You know, you see some catches and you're like, wait a second. Rewind that. Did he really just catch that? It was pretty special.
Unbelievable. And you know what? The fact that the Red Sox ended up winning that game, that might be one of those moments, right? Like the Holiday home run the other week against the Red Sox, even though he's really struggled, that was like one of those moments that can be in the DVD. If the Yankees end up winning the World Series, that home run, I think that Red Sox win could be a signature win for them.
No doubt. I mean, sometimes all it takes is one thing to spark a team, a trade, a play, a big win, a walk-off, whatever it might be. I'm personally, I'm really excited about the last 2 months of the season because Yankees and Red Sox matter. And when the Yankees and Red Sox are battling each other for the division, baseball's a whole lot of fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Mark, always a pleasure, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, guys, you too.
Later, man.
All right, that's Mark Teixeira.